I think this is better, yeah, right? Yeah, I've got a tendency to look down into my webcam, and yeah, I'm looking at the webcam, or not the webcam, the viewfinder, cause it's moving and it's interesting, and my brain is like, oh, it's moving, oh. Can't nothing be done about it. Maybe like if I put like a really tiny screen like on top of my webcam, like if I had like a phone screen that sat on top of my webcam, like, all right, look here, you dumb putting one of those like ADHD like videos, the like slime videos or whatever on top of my webcams. Oh, it's so cool. And then I'm still not looking at the webcam. That's good enough. Unironically, that might help so much. Oh my god, I hate me. Having a messy room was a funny and popular bit in like 2014 to 2016, I feel, and now it's just really sad. So send help. That map, yeah, right there, was originally in front of me, but a wasp got behind it at one point. And while trying to deal with the wasp, I accidentally tore it loose from the wall, and now it fell, and I couldn't put it back. and so now I'm just gonna include it in the background. Come to think of it, I could probably like got scotch tape here for like visual comedy stuff. I could probably tape it up. Like, one moment. I bet I could do this. Gross. Not even kidding. It unironically is. Okay. Then we do the little loop. God damn it! I'm messing up the tape. No, tape. Stop rolling. Doesn't matter. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's so lopsided. I don't have a level, but that's like a 5-degree grade right there. I'm not fixing it. Anyway, when I first decided that I wanted to do this project, I said that I don't want to cram on John Oliver's style. First off, that's his shtick. That's how he presents news. Obviously requires a big team and, so on and so forth. And also, some more news was already, copying it to some degree. I'm not throwing shade. I'm just saying the styles are very similar. After trying to work on this for 3 weeks now, 3 weeks to make 1 week worth of content. Ugh. I've decided I'm cramming on John Oliver's style. Just a bit. Importantly, we will not be going over at one major social policy or situation that afflicts us all in an intersectionality way, but definitely afflicts one group of people more than the rest. For 40 minutes a night. We barely have enough time to cover what I want to do. We are primarily focused on covering broad news stories from the past week. Now, obviously, we can't be perfect. Sometimes news stories from a previous week will be missed. Sometimes they will be doubled up. Sometimes there will be more information present. We really can't control for all. I keep on saying we. How you doing, Lizzie? I'm fine, other Lizzie. Just fine. But in all seriousness, I will only be really covering news because I have a problem with how I have a problem with how a lot of news right now is sensationalized, not delivered evenly, as in some news some news stories get a lot more attention than others, kind of unfairly, kind of fairly. I argue that a lot of the stories that I follow are pretty fairly covered, but what I really want to do is get the news for people who don't have the time to sit through whole dissertations, people who really want to stay up to date but just don't have the time. I know a lot of like apps and so on try to do this. I personally recommend Rational Wiki if you're one of those people. And from my goddamn 5 weeks on Facebook at this point, I've realized how terrible online spaces are for news. I mean, seriously, you will be radicalized into something by like logging on to Facebook. And I'm not even kidding. That shit rots your brain. I really want to tackle sensational news. I personally think that a lot of sensational news is used as a way of right-wing rhetoric, this, that, and the other. I think a lot of misinformation happens with sensational news, and while I definitely don't have a problem being left-wing rhetoric about it, I do have a problem with the intense amount of misinformation that takes place with sensational news. I want this to sort of bridge a gap in alienated, terminally online people and people who are much more normies. Yeah, this is a YouTuber dissertating information to you, but at the end of the day, this is the best I can do. I can't literally go to a station right now and say, hey, can I have a news show? I'm grossly incompetent, not trained in reporting, not really anything. But hey, I'm really smart. Look at how many articles I can read. I moved the goddamn OBS window again. Okay. Oh, it made it big. Okay. Yes. Oh, no! We're back. Hey, okay. So, generally speaking, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bridge gaps in highly alienated communities to a more broad audience. We're trying to reduce how much misinformation is in sensational news. I really hate sensational news. It's really, really often co-opted to spread misinformation, and specifically by the right, usually used to spread narrative that is also harmful to the world. Sensational news is really, really bad, and we're trying to tackle it because it also covers current events. It's a toss-up. Now, a really good example, not of a news desert, but what I mean by undercovered stories that aren't covered enough, is a few weeks ago, a teenager was found out to have been groomed into being a terrorist supporter by the FBI. Now, importantly, there was never any terrorists involved here, which means that it was one spook in a room trying to convince a teenager that they need to support ISIS. It doesn't help the story at all that the teenager was mentally handicapped and multiple times tried to not support ISIS or the stand-in for ISIS. At the end of the story, they even say that the teenager who when they started was 16 and I believe when they ended was 18, tried to report the person who was pretending to be an ISIS agent. But this went fundamentally underreported, and I think that is an absolute tragedy. I think this is something that should have been headlined for 2 weeks straight, and I'm not kidding. Furthermore, I find it intensely insulting that all this drama was made because some Google Play cards. Yeah, there was that's not it. That's a bad summary, but that is the most actual evidence there is. A brief summary can pretty quickly say, yeah, so basically the kid bought some Google Play cards occasionally and sent them to this contact, and there was a video where he was like, oh yeah, I pledge loyalty or whatever, but that still doesn't change the fact that he was groomed into thinking that ISIS was good, actually. That'll get made TOS as hell. And that he's got a whole legal mess because the government was just like, oh yeah, this will be a great idea. Genuinely, I don't understand why this wasn't like a story for weeks. Now to move on to much more light-hearted news. Transphobia. Posie Parker, the well-renowned TERF, has decided to cancel her trip to New Zealand. Apparently she was planning on going and doing another one of those crypto-fascist, very much Nazi, anti-trans rallies in New Zealand again, and she decided not to because the champion trans community in New Zealand was just simply too strong, too powerful. They all just yelled at her and also souped her good. God bless. Now, some of you may not be super familiar with Posie Parker. What is she? I've only just heard of her. Posie Parker is a TERF, a trans-exclusive radical feminist. Now, I'm sure I've got some audience members who heard feminist and thought, progressive. No. TERFs have often recently been cited to be one of the main things pushing the world into more like conservative views. Can't speak today. TERFs are, without a doubt, one of the main people pushing anti-trans rhetoric and transphobia and other forms of bigotry. If you see someone who's generally being transphobic, but keeps on saying, but women, you know, so on and so forth, just really trying to like tie trans people to women in a bad way. You probably were talking to a TERF. Now, why do I care that a TERF wasn't able to have literally a Nazi rally in New Zealand? I don't, honestly. I just think it's really funny. I don't really think that this will be good or bad for the trans community or progressives at large. I just think it's funny. It's funny. Let it be funny. I'll be trying to include a link to the Sean video because I think Sean did a really good job at explaining Posie Parker. Hello. Don't even use Nerf. I don't know how I got a Nerf dart in my hand. I think this little I'm scared of trans people counter-protesting me is funny, but I think there's a lot of issues with Posie Parker that a lot of people should do their own research on. It's really important that you're familiar enough with TERFs to explain why they're bad. It's just one of those things nowadays. Moving on, we've got a much more iffy story. This is a much more in the weeds news story. There's not so much data that I can reference say yes or no on any of this, but it looks like there is a well-known someone who's been described multiple times as a war criminal who apparently might be sick or even in a coma. Now, I personally have trouble believing this story because they don't really cite what injury or affliction might be getting this guy, but it's definitely something that a lot of people want to keep an eye on if you have an interest in the Ukraine war. I have an interest, obviously. I just don't have enough information to comment on it. War and, you know, Russian politics is not something I'm skilled or proficient in, and I didn't really have enough time to look into this. I personally think that there's a high likelihood that either side could be mistaken, or, well, I mean, the Ukrainian intelligence could be mistaken. The Russian intelligence could be intentionally, trying to throw bad info into the air. The Russian intelligence obviously saying that this guy's alive and well and not in a coma. Going as far as to release a Twitter video that I don't feel like showing here just because I'm too lazy to get that as something I show here. I'm sorry, this has a really low production value. Now, another story that, again, is pretty interesting if you care about it, but I don't really have the information, I don't think, to comment on it, is Russell Brand, a used to be Hollywood actor and borderline celebrity, now very much a conspiracy poster and a Bush did 9/11, COVID vaccines are bad for you type. Seems to have been brought up on some pretty serious allegations. I like to maintain a siding with facts when I can, and the facts, as far as I can see them, as far as I've read anyway, don't seem to indicate guiltiness or lack thereof. So a lot of information still out. I personally recommend for any allegation case like this that you might come across, usually it's safe to not really side with anyone, but understand that something probably did unfold that is less than savory. This has been the case for like every allegation in the past, and it'll continue to be the case for like every allegation going forward, with literal like outlier exceptions. Our next story is much like all the rest, very hard to say yes or no on any of this, but it is absolutely insane. And very, very much concerning. Some allegations from Canada's intelligence agencies suggest that India might be tied to the murder of a Sikh individual in Canada. Now, some background on this is that this Sikh individual was suspected to be part of a Sikh militant group in India, I believe northeast India, and was suspected to be very much on the high end of that, fleeing from India to Canada for refugee-ness. And Canadian intelligence believes that his recent death is in correlation to India. We need to unpack that. So, Canadian intelligence has no reason to just say, we think the Indians did it. It would make no sense for the intelligence community to just blindly blame someone, even if, mind you, they had good reason to suspect, but no evidence. Just everyone had a hunch, like everyone, they're on the trail, but they don't have any evidence. They wouldn't just blame India, or at least I don't believe they would. A lot of people suggest that this may be an assassination. I think that might be a little bit of an irresponsible way of phrasing it, but it's not nothing. The main problem I have believing that India might be responsible for it is that this would just be a bad thing for India. This would just be all around not a good play for India on the world stage. The main reason that I have to believe India might maybe have a tie to this is because Modi, the current prime minister, something of India, head honcho of India at the moment, would 100% be the kind of person to order an assassination attempt explicitly to send a message to political opponents that he will do it. Or, in short, Modi is the kind of person who uses lives and the international stage as a dick measuring contest. I don't want to say, yes, this happened, or no, this didn't happen. This is some serious cloak and dagger shit, and it's more than likely we will never know. It's not something that would surprise me in the slightest if it was just, yeah, we never knew. Yeah. And frankly, I know that's dissatisfying to a lot of people, but I think that's the most we can hope for. I mean, what happens if we can confirm that, yeah, India did it? What? India gets embargoed from Canada? And then, like, it would be a lot of tiny things that would put India back, but you couldn't really respond to this. Maybe you could try to get the international community to get some form of justice, but I don't think that's what matters right now. I think just being aware that, hey, India might be doing this is probably the most we're going to get from it, and I don't know. This is a pretty up there, news story. Even though I've tried to familiarize myself with it, a lot of it just seems to go right over my head, because again, a lot of this is cloak and dagger shit. I don't think I don't think any of us can reasonably hope to understand this in full. And then if anyone does, I think that they've wasted their time. This story, as pressing as it is, there's not going to be... I don't think there will be anything relevant from this down the line. It's just sort of an unfortunate event that, could be precedent setting for future events, but I guess I don't know. Now, moving on to much, much better news for the world. Apparently, Hong Kong hasn't done what we wanted, but has done something. Single-sex couples can now be legally partnered. Not quite married yet, but we're getting there. In my opinion, this is in fact good enough, but I know for a fact that some people definitely and reasonably want to be married. There is a lot of weight behind that. Even if legal partnership was the same legally as marriage in all ways, and they just had a different word, I would still advocate that, people should be allowed to get married. People should. But for right now, I think this is an excellent step forward. Furthermore, on this same topic, we've got even better news. Some people from Hong Kong were able to get their son or child, I don't know if it was son, I don't know why I misspoke there. They were able to get both the moms on the child's legally listed as a parent. I suddenly am blanking really hard. I'm sorry about that. Both parents are now listed, which is a huge W for the gay community. Huge, massive W. Imagine how insane it would be if for your parents, if one of them wasn't legally listed as your parent. That would be nuts. That would be insane. For legal reasons and otherwise. So it's really good that these women in Hong Kong were able to both get listed as parents for their kid. Absolute massive W for Hong Kong right now. Really looking forward to the future on that. Now, we have a little bit of a more depressing story to go over real quick. I can't really find all the details on this, but, the important facts are pretty well outlined, in my opinion. Apparently, a high school band director was tased and arrested for not ending a song. Now, the information as I have it is that the police were trying to clear an assembly and this director didn't comply with the request on the podium to stop the music after they had a minute left to go. Now, the important thing here, in my opinion, is that according to all the sources I've read, no one was in any form of danger. No one was like everyone was enjoying themselves, and the police kind of were just there on the podium saying, stop the music, we're clearing the assembly. I don't really know all the information here. I definitely will be doing more reading on this after the fact, or after I'm done tonight with the news. This seemed really weird. It seemed weird that a band director would be tased and harassed seemingly for no reason. Though obviously I'm smart enough to know that cops will more often than not even act without reason. This isn't surprising if this is actually the entire story. It just is confusing that there isn't something else, because you usually expect there to be something else. I don't think there will be something else. And if there is, I don't think it will justify the actual brutality used against a band director, just a guy, I really hope that the family is well compensated. Yeah, apparently the band director was taken to jail overnight or something to that effect after being hospitalized for being, tackled and tased and arrested and, the works. He's been released on bail, which I think is insane. He should have been released that night, no bail, no nothing. I think that a lot of people will be trying to, a lot of the right, if you talk about this story, will try and be like, oh, well, actually, I don't give a shit. This guy deserves like $50,000 and a blowjob. I'm not kidding. This is actually insane. I really hope that this guy is okay. I hope, because this is something that would kind of fuck with a stadium full of students. I really hope that everyone here is okay. It just seems so ridiculous. It seems ridiculous. I don't know what I'm supposed to say here. Obviously I feel like there's missing information, but I don't think that missing information will just hand wave this. I don't think it will be but actually there was someone doing heroin near the stadium and they were trying to deal with the person doing heroin. I don't care. There's no reason, if everyone is enjoying themselves and if everyone is having a good time, no one's in danger. Why is this guy getting arrested? Why is this guy having to pay bail? Why is this guy hospitalized after getting tased? None of this makes sense. I hope these cops get reprimanded in some way, but I'm smart enough to know that the US doesn't really have an effective way of reprimanding cops. Moreover, they don't care about reprimanding cops, even if they did have an effective way of doing it. So, we're screwed if we do, we're screwed if we don't. I definitely recommend people do more reading on this story, because this, even though there's like not a lot here, it, in my opinion, went criminally under reported. So yeah, please, this is the exact kind of thing that I'm saying we should report more, and it's going underreported. Now, I'm not actually going to get into this story because I think anyone worth your salt knows how to read this one. So Neuralink, that fun thing. Wired apparently, God, this image sucks. I don't know why I chose this one. Wired made a brief story, not brief actually, quite extensive, but summarized briefly a story about how the Neuralink monkeys died. Now, I think we all knew Elon was just killing. Elon just fetishize killing like animals and primates and so on and so forth. It doesn't surprise anyone. In fact, this was kind of well-known knowledge if you knew where to look or just talked about Elon relatively actively. He basically has just got a lab full of dead monkeys that he just has. The Neuralink thing was entirely going to kill anything it was installed in. I'm not going to go into the details because I don't think it's relevant. I do think, however, it is relevant to say, hey, yeah, don't trust Elon Musk ever. Just don't. Anything he says he's done, anything he says is true is false. Anything he says he's done, he hasn't. Anything that he says is true is wrong. You should just trust Elon to be incorrect about every single thing. So the main reason I'm actually covering it tonight is because, again, I'm hoping normies watch my content. If normies are in my audience, I'm not entirely sure how well known this is. If this is your first time hearing about it, there's not much information to disseminate. Disseminate isn't the right word. Whatever. There's not much here to like suss out unless you want like, I guess, medical paperwork, which is always going to be gross to look over. Basically, the long story short, though, is that Elon Musk very much didn't deserve to get animal testing stuff, and then went on to do animal testing, and it killed a bunch of animals. Whoa, I'm surprised. That's the entire story, guys. Don't trust like fucking billionaire tech bros. They are not your friend. They will not ever be your friend. And they are so disassociated from society that they think they can actually do this. Moreover, they think they can do this and not get in trouble when it goes pear-shaped. Now, for our final story tonight, and frankly, I didn't get to cover near as much as I wanted to, but, we do what we can. Joe Biden, under, I believe it was an executive order, I could be mistaken, signed into action, I'm really failing on my language checks right now, that there would be a new climate corps, a large group of people who will go around, planting trees, building solar panels, working conservation sites, so on and so forth. And while I have some criticisms of this, I genuinely think this is a really good step forward. A lot of people keep citing Green New Deal, Green New Deal. I just think this is good on its own. Correction. I don't think that this is enough on its own, but I think this is really good that we have a large organization of people who will strictly be working to keep the environment put together. One thing that we've seen a lot of in the past 3-4 years has been rampant wildfires. And I mean, just absolutely atrocious fires. Now, a lot of this, a lot of these new fires have a lot of nuance, but they also don't have a lot of nuance because they're somewhat split between global warming and just environments heating up a whole bunch, and also, which, you know, no nuance, and also the fact that carbon credits are a terrible idea, and what's the word, new growth force? I can't remember. Basically, a lot of people who have been going around planting trees or something to that effect have been planting them in such a way that will help foster future wildfires. God, I can't speak. So I really like that we have just, I'm not sure if it's exactly an organization yet, but you know, it's something that will just be working to minimize wildfires, to help conserve the environment. I like the fact that we are trying on a national scale, national scale, to do better for the world. You know, obviously there's been like global and national and local projects to do climate protection, but it's always fallen through. It's always been less than it should be. And this finally, I think, is one of the few things that is what it should be. It's not enough on its own, but it's what it should be, you know? This honestly is a great step forward. Dude, my ear's pressurizing weird. That sure was a show. Jesus, I thought to start doing this like 3 weeks ago. I'm like, it'll be easy. I'll just like, you know, I already read so much. I just need to make some graphics, and I can include it all in like little scene transitions in OBS. Dude, that was my mistake. What was I gonna say? Yeah, so before I leave for the night, I need to really set a precedent here and now. First off, tonight's video was literally me reading off Rational Wiki because Reuters are cucks who stopped me from reading their website. I'm not even kidding. That's unironically why I couldn't use Reuters. But furthermore, I am not like someone to form an opinion around. I simply read. I barely even read articles. I read headlines. If anything here stood out to you tonight as important, don't cite me for it. Go. Goddamn bottles into. Sorry. Go to the source. I tried my best to make sure the sources were properly displayed. By that I mean like the publisher, the network, the writer, the article, the everything. I tried to make sure that people can like go there and like look it up. I meant to save the links so I could like link them in the description. If I remember to do that, I'll try and go through and check what links I use, but that probably won't happen. that probably won't happen. I am incredibly lazy. But in all seriousness, I am not like your source. I am not your source. Do not cite me for something. Do not form your opinion around something I said. If something stood out to you, I beg, I plead, go do your own research. I'm including a lot of the tools I use to like research in the description because I think they're good, or else I wouldn't use them to research. But again, that's still my thing. If you really want to be safe, you know, go read articles you know are false. You know, go read the Daily Mail and see what they're saying about current events, because it will probably be wrong, but it will still be interesting, an insight into how the public is perceiving truth right now. Furthermore, as I said, I didn't get to nearly the articles I wanted to get to. I wanted to go over everything. We have a little bit of a problem there in that everything is a lot of things. I thought, oh yeah, 1 week, that'll be easy enough to summarize. That was my mistake. I basically covered what I thought I could get to. This video was meant to be like less than an hour long, and I'm now certain it is over an hour. I don't know. I don't have like I kept on like ending the clips. So yeah, important notes. Don't view me as a source or get your opinion from me. And I can't remember what the other important thing was. Oh yeah, there's a lot of news that I didn't get to cover. Those are the things. If you liked what you saw, I will be trying to do a higher production value version of this next week. This was kind of a trial run, kind of a proof of concept, but kind of also a pilot of sorts. I'll be trying to do this more often. I'll try and do one every Friday, even if I'm feeling exceptionally sick, because hopefully if I'm feeling exceptionally sick, I'll be able to ask Thomas or something to help me find articles that are worth reading. Next week, I'll definitely be trying to get some information other than from Rational Wiki, because even though I really like Rational Wiki, it's basically the one place I read from this week. There was like some other sources, but it was almost entirely Rational Wiki. My ear is pressurizing really weirdly and it hurts. So with that, I'm probably going to end it. It is 2013 GMT +1. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend.